Hi, I'm the Mossman, and in today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at this plant that I have received from school. It was free, they were getting rid of it, and I was like, sure, I'll take one. This was a cutting that a student did last year, and so let's derive some basic information about the plant from the tag, because we have possibly more useful information on this tag than you usually see on a lot of nursery plants. Tradescantia pallida, which it may look familiar to another plant that I have shown on the channel before, and that's quite a common houseplant, Tradescantia zebrina, or a common name, I think it's the inch plant or wandering Jew, and they are quite similar because they're the same genus. The naming structure, the scientific naming structure of plants is genus, species, and they both start with the same name, so they are both from the same genus. You can imagine that it'll grow quite similarly to how a regular wandering Jew plant would. Now, obviously, there's a lot to work with here. I got to clean this up, repot it, get all of those weeds out of there, take off all the dead stuff, and we'll see what else. But before we do that, let's take a look at this tag because it contains a few extra interesting pieces of information. Number one is the number 1 on this tag. Now, because I've had to write my share of tags like this, I understand that number 1 is the kind of rooting hormone that was used, or rather the concentration of rooting hormone that was used when this cutting was taken. There's a few different ones. Number 1 just means it's very dilute. I won't get into it too much. Maybe I'll save that for another video on plant hormones. But the artificial rooting hormone that we use is an artificial IBA, which is pretty common. And this is an example. I think I have, this is indole butyric acid. Anyways, these two here that I have, these rooting hormone mixes, they both contain IBA, which is the active hormone. However, this one is in a lower concentration than this one, which is interesting. Perhaps because this is in a gel format. This specific one I have here would be, let's see, what color? It is pink, which is one of the ways you can tell the concentration of your rooting powder. But there you go. That's one piece of information. It's using the lowest concentration IBA rooting hormone for when this cutting was taken. And speaking of when this cutting was taken, February 9th, it looks like. February is the 2nd month, and we are in the 11th month. 9 months. It has been 9 months since this cutting was taken. Now, one last piece of information that's here. It says internodal. Now, that is the way that the cutting was taken. I don't see stem tip, but the significance of the fact that it doesn't say stem tip implies that it is a regular stem cutting. So, for example, I have too many ferns, not enough of them have the right stem structure for me to give you an example of. Nerve plant. This nerve plant. Okay. I will show you a video cutting from here. Anything that includes the part that's growing at the end is a stem tip cutting, whereas everything else is just a stem cutting. Now, this doesn't say stem tip, so that I'm assuming applies it's a stem cutting. And internodal means that it is cut between two nodes. Internode, which is, I will make a line on this video picture thing where a nodal cut would go, that's right below a node, and where an internodal cut would go, which is between the nodes. And now that is all the information to be derived from this tag. So let's get into working on this thing, and maybe I'll kind of discover how it's grown a little more accurately. So in the following footage, I take off the dead leaves, I clean everything out, and I take away as much soil as possible. I am a little rough on the roots, perhaps rougher than I should have been, just because I didn't realize how root bound this was. Like, it was incredibly hard to get even get any soil out of it because it's all just roots. I also clean off the leaves and prepare some new soil because the nutrients and the texture of the old soil, that whatever soil is left, is definitely lacking. So it definitely needed new soil, among other things. Alright, so now it's been give or take a couple months since the last thing I recorded, and what that means is it's had time to kind of have the roots recover a little bit, develop, and some of the above the soil line growth start to occur. And so this is what we have now. It's a little leggy, honestly. You can kind of see. It's got little hairs, which are a distinct feature of this plant. But yeah, it's kind of leggy. However, there's some of these little growths at the bottom. They were harder to see in the older version, but there were two kind of new shoots coming up, and now we have a third one. So hopefully that'll help with the density of the plant. The reason that it is growing in this way, not as dense, is likely due to the fact that it doesn't get the best light conditions where it's sitting right now. It's kind of being shaded by the maidenhair fern here, and yeah, it's still winter, so it's still growing rather slowly. But hopefully, when we move into spring, when we move into summer, we see some faster growth, and I will repot it because the roots are still super dense, and it will eventually either need to be repotted or I'm just gonna have to cut back those roots a lot more. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And I'd like to thank the musicians who have provided music for this video. Their names will be in the description below. Hopefully the next video will come a little quicker than this one did, but we will see.